Okay, so this is an upper body mobility drill for the front squat. It's for everyone, but it's more specifically for my viewer and friend, Matthew. Hopefully this helps, dude. Let me know, and anyone else too, let me know in the comments. This is probably the best stretch that I know of for the front rack position. Full disclosure, I don't do it anymore because, well, I use this. It's one of those, almost every piece of equipment sold for yoga practice is dumb. It's a grift. Even yoga mats, which most people feel are kind of necessary, I think you can get the same effect with like a used rug at Goodwill. It's not going to cost you $100, you know. But I gotta eat humble pie. I really like this, and this is a cheap little Gaiam one, which is a gross company and a gross product, but it works really well. And you know what? Now that I'm pitching for them, I mean, they haven't paid me, but now that I'm making a free ad for this Gaiam yoga wheel, I'll show you that movement after. For the more bendy folks, it's going to work pretty good. But, so, the front squat, right? A lot of us avoid the front squat because the position's so awkward and terrible. And, you know, we can recognize that it's a good lift, but especially if you're a power lifter, you're just training the back squat and you'll leave the front squat out because it feels bad. It feels bad in your body, you know, and we're in an awkward front rack position and we have actually quite a lot of mobility demands for such a simple shape. And especially under load, it can feel really dangerous and really uncomfortable. Add to the fact that you're doing this lift with a bar pressed against your throat, you know? Now, with a little bit of practice, you find the appropriate front rack position, you know? You find the bar is really on your, I think your anterior delts, and it's just touching your throat, you know? So if it's pressing into your throat or it's not touching your throat, you're out of position. That's some proprioception. It takes a little while, but like you can find it. It just takes practice. So anyway, the stretch, right? Really what we're thinking about is the network of fascia tissue in our body from our groin all the way to our wrists, you know? I'm extending overhead because even though we're not extending overhead in the position, it's that same network, groin to wrists, is getting pulled taut. And like we need space in that. Now it might be that you have proper contractile tissue, ligament and tendon restrictions, or even bone restrictions, in which case you'll see results with this, but it's going to take a long time and it might not be worth it. But if you have some basic mobility issues, which most of us do, it's largely your fascial network and to a degree neurological. There are a lot of good stretches to open up this side of the body, but we want something sport specific. So here, right? You need some kind of lightweight rod. This is an old shower rod, and this is what I use for anything like this. A broom handle will work fine. Even a band pulled tight will work. I like that less because you get some weird counter tension. But all we're gonna do, we want roughly a forearm's length of the tube, you know? So, and we'll do it first with wrists up, right? You got that much space. Elbows roughly shoulder distance apart, maybe a little thinner or a little wider. It doesn't matter too much. Place it on a bench or any elevated surface and allow your head to sink beneath. Now you can probably see here that I'm pretty bendy. So I'm getting into position fairly well. And it might be the case that you're up here, you know? And if that is the case, don't worry about it. It meets you where you are, right? Now, also, you'll notice that in this bottom position, I'm going pretty passive, pretty lax, just letting gravity do all the work. And you can certainly do that too. But if you're a weightlifter, to a degree, that's counterproductive, right? You want to be active. You could even breathe and brace in the position before you go into the stretch. Like, I'm kind of thinking on the fly here. As always, I don't script this stuff. But yeah, just breathe and brace. Use it, fill your lungs, your belly with air and press out and get in that position. And you want to hold for something like 30 seconds, you know? If that's extremely difficult for you and you can't get in a position, we do the same stretch with our racked bar and we just put our hands on it. I'll show you that in a second too. You're probably thinking right now, Joe, so what? Like, I've seen this stretch before. This is not very interesting. That's not the part. I've been talking for like 6 minutes now. That's not the part I'm trying to teach you. I recommend you do this stretch while you're ramping up for the front squat. So in between your warm-up sets or even your first couple ramp-up sets to a heavier weight, 30 seconds a pop, hold that stretch. I wouldn't recommend you do it in between your heavy sets. And that seems somewhat intuitive. Like, why would you, that seems somewhat unsafe. I don't believe it's unsafe. What I think it does is this is only a theory. It screws up your proprioception. And like, if you want a good position, when you're using the heavier weights, just rest. Just actually rest between sets. When you're ramping up, you can do all sorts of interesting stuff in between sets. Or when you're just warming up or just playing with the bar, definitely do some fun stuff, Try to improve the position. Try to get into a better position. Do a little stretching. Do a little active mobilization, But when you're going heavy, that work should already be done. So 30 seconds, 2 to 3 sets. I would recommend doing it a couple times a week. I'll tag the guy below. You probably already know him, but it's Movement by David. He's this sprite-like young guy who's got really, really great information, and it's all backed by science. And I will tag him below. But he might not be your bag, but his information is sound, I promise. And I get nothing from endorsing him, so, don't worry about that. But you need roughly 5 minutes a week in a new position in order to make progress, 5 minutes a week, so let's say 30 seconds per set. Why don't we say 2 to 4 times per session? What are you looking at there? You need to do 2 to 3 sessions a week. So a recommendation that I would have, if you're squatting 2 times a week, turn one of your squat sessions into a front squat session. And don't worry about the weight. Don't worry about performance at all. And as you're ramping up to something respectable-ish, do these stretches. Work on your position. Make it about position more than anything else, And that'll be 1 good session a week. Then, perhaps when you're doing deadlifts, on deadlift day, or perhaps on a rest day, do it again, And like, what you'll notice if you're not accustomed to this kind of work, almost immediately, you're going to see enormous improvements, right? And then a week or 2 or 3 weeks in, you're not going to see any. It's going to stagnate, and it's going to stay that way for a long period of time. That's just life, man. I don't know what to tell you, you know? Every athletic endeavor has the exact same structure. You get wild gains immediately, and then they slow down. And it doesn't mean you have to mix things up. It doesn't mean you have to change tactics. You can certainly do those things, but just stay with it. Just keep going, you know? This is a war we win by inches, or in this case, millimeters, you know? What else? I think that's it. I've talked for a really long time. Let me show you two alternatives, all right? So, well, first of all, if that stretch works out for you, then we do this, right? So we're doing it wrist pointing up, getting into position. So now, because we want to mimic that front rack position, we turn our hands the other way. My phone cut out on me. I'm going to do this next part fast and ugly, right? So here we were, right? Wrists up, doing the stretch. Now we're going to turn the hands, and we're going to get more of that front rack position. I'm not demoing it very well here, yeah? And the exact same idea, right? So if you're practicing with breathe and brace, go for it. If you're not into that, if it doesn't feel specific or interesting for you, don't worry about it. Get in position, hold for 30 seconds, either somewhat passive right here, letting gravity do the work, or breathe and brace and hold. It's hard to talk like this, but you get the idea. Yeah? If that's way too intense for you, and I'm showing you something well outside your mobility realm, we'll go with the old standard, right? So here, yep, that ain't gonna work. There we go, right? So I have a slight variation on this movement, right? Basically, all you're doing is putting your wrists on the bar or your hands, same distance apart, roughly a forearm's length. And you're kind of ragdolling, you're hanging out, you know? You're just letting gravity do the work, and you're looking for new space, you're looking for a new position. But the bar does have an advantage. You can explore. You can be more playful. Now, is playfulness more beneficial? No, not at all. In fact, it's probably less beneficial. But it has the added advantage of being fun, being whimsical, and the best mobility routine is the one you'll do, you know? Not the one that's optimal, right? So, check it out. We get in this position, we allow gravity to do the work, put a little bend in your knees, come up on your toes, and play with the shape, man. Move around in it. Kind of explore, see where you're sticky, see what can happen. 30 seconds, 2 or 3 sets. Now, I did talk about the yoga wheel earlier, and most of you won't have much use for this, right? But what I would recommend, if you are on the bendier side, you take the wheel, you interlace your fingers in between it, you use your wrists on this hard lip. I'm not going to be able to talk through this next part, so I'll show you quick, right? You place it on your upper back, your neck, just like so. Find that hand position. Using your feet, you kick in, and when you get in a position that feels somewhat rowdy, then you drop your hips a little. And that is a really miserable time, and it's going to really open you up. But do not, I got to be really clear about this, do not jump into that. You can get one of those wheels and you can play, but you've got to be conscientious, because what'll happen is you'll pull your serratus, these intercostal muscles, and that's the most irritating injury you're ever going to have. It feels like you're being stabbed with a freshly sharpened pencil every time you breathe, all day, every day. It's awful. I got no reason to lie to you about this. don't jump into that movement. Just don't do it. So that's it. That's it, guys. You know, I have a lot more to say, as you can probably tell. I think this is a 15-minute long explanation for 2, maybe 3 lazy stretches. But this shit is fun, you know? And like, if I can get on a soapbox for a second, this is what I think we should use YouTube for. You know, we should stop bankrolling fitness models, influencers, and start like talking to each other and helping each other. Like, forget about getting monetized, forgetting about getting internet famous or any of that nonsense. This might be the future. This might be how we socialize. And it's amazing. Like, are there pitfalls? Are there downsides to it? Yeah, for real. There are potentially some very serious ones. But, like, there's good in it too, you know? If we just watch ourselves, you know? If we just are careful with how we use it, there could be a real benefit. Anyway, I'm gonna squat now. Today's kind of a rest day for me. Matthew, I hope that was helpful. Please, like, comment below or on Instagram. I don't care which, let me know. And anyone else, you know, you questions, comments, concerns, scathing criticisms, put them in the comments, man. I'll address them. I will absolutely address them. And that's it. That's it. 15, 16 minutes. That's it. On the squats. Stay tuned.